personality out of Boston. Yes, let's clap for Jazz. Let's go. Go ahead, Jazz. Her passion for music and media stemmed from the closest connections in her life, her grandmother and mother. Jazz has over 10 years of media production experience with her start on WRBB 104.9 FM. Since that time, Jazz has served as a host, as well as managed and produced multiple radio shows and podcasts in the Boston area, including #CTTC Radio Show, BNF Podcast, and Sundays Are for Soul. Currently, Jazz is hosting the Pulse Countdown on Spark FM and building her credentials as an accredited media personality. Some of her most prominent interviews include Ty Dolla $ign, Aaron Ray, and most recently, R&B great Eric Bellinger. Be on the lookout for more interviews and content coming soon from Jazz. Let's give a round of applause to Jazz.
Thank you so much for the intro. All right, I need to do a temperature check. How's everybody feeling? Okay, yes, I like that. So we're gonna jump into the A&R panel today, also known as Artist and Repertoire, and we're gonna learn a bit more about what an A&R is, what their job consists of, and why it's important for labels and artists to have A&Rs involved in their process. So first and foremost, we're gonna kick it off with Naeem, Executive Vice President of A&R at Def Jam Records. Naeem McNair has had a significant career in the music industry before becoming the EVP of A&R at Def Jam Records, a position announced in early 2020. His extensive experience spans over 2 decades, working with some of the industry's top artists, producers, and labels, including Top Dog, Future, Tommy Brown, Ariana Grande, as well as Sage the Gemini. Moreover, McNair's role and influence extends beyond just scouting and developing music talent. He's actively involved in industry initiatives aimed at fostering the next generation of music executives and artists. So give it up for Naeem McNair, everybody. Okay, and next up, sorry, I gotta get my notes up. We have Bailey Lawson. So Bailey Lawson is an up-and-coming A&R from the birthplace of hip-hop, New York City. She graduated from the Berklee College of Music in 2020 with a degree in professional music, with a focus on music business, production, and engineering. Currently, Bailey is serving as the Black Music and A&R department, as well as an A&R coordinator at Atlantic Records, where she scouts and assists with signing newest, hottest acts from around the world. And the rising A&R has a passion for uplifting young new creatives, especially women in the music industry. So all the ladies in here, make sure you reach out to her while you're here. She previously was the director of digital content and A&R manager for In Session, a community for women, non-binary, and trans producers of color on a local and global scale through providing direct access to industry-level education, resources, artist development, and meaningful community connections. So give it up for Bailey, everybody. And our last guest, who will be arriving very shortly, so I'll give a brief introduction, is Stephen Carless. He's the president of Warner Records A&R. He's also known as Steve-O, and he's a renowned music executive, talent manager, and is celebrated for his work with Nipsey Hussle. His career is highlighted by his achievements in A&R, guiding the careers of artists like Jeezy, Dave East, YG, and Polo G, along with Grammy nominations for Nipsey Hussle as well. So he'll be here shortly and he'll be coming up to the panel. But I want to jump in. And so either one of you can start, and make sure you can speak into the mic. But can you give us a quick intro about your career journey and some of the most important things you've learned along the way to getting where you are now? Ladies first, Bailey.
Absolutely. So I'm born and raised from New York City. I'm from the Bronx and Harlem. My mom is a dancer. She danced with Alvin Ailey. So I was always around the arts, like as a very young kid. So I was dancing, singing. My first instrument was violin. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Like I'm in a new space. I'm like figuring out what really music means to me. But I didn't want to play violin. I wanted to play guitar. So they started me off there, went through the whole motions, and then I think it was my junior year of high school, I did the Clive Davis Future Music Moguls program, and that's where I found out about A&R. I had no idea that I was already doing it. Like, I was on SoundCloud all the time, like hitting people up like, yo, like this was a really cool piece. Like, where did you come up with this concept? All of these things. So then at that program, I met Riggs Morales, who was formerly at Atlantic Records like a few months ago. Now he's at Def Jam. But Riggs really like changed my whole perspective on what I could do with the music business. So I did that. Then I got into the Berklee College of Music, and I knew going in that I wanted to do A&R. So I said, I want to do production and engineering because I wanted to know how to talk to my artists. I didn't want to be that only woman in the room most of the time in the studio where people thought that I wouldn't know how to communicate with my engineer and my artist. So I did that, did the whole music business route as well. And then running the Berklee A&R group, I just like started hitting people in their DMs like, hey, come talk to our students. Like, we're developing great artists here. Like, please hear what we have to say. Like, come listen to some great music. So did that. I met a Berklee grad, Kelly Sayer, who worked at Atlantic Records. And from there, she gave me my like big break, basically like to introducing me to Lonray Gaba, who spoke earlier today, who was my first boss. And she saw so much light in me, and I assisted her. And then recently there were some changes at Atlantic, and I moved on to being coordinator now and just connecting with a lot of producers and songwriters and connecting them with a lot of artists on our team. So that's how I got to where I am right now.
Okay, to you, Naeem.
Yes, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee originally. Ironically, I was actually born in Boston. My father went to Harvard. I attended Morgan State University in Baltimore, where I worked at the college radio station. I majored in psychology. There, I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, which I think helps me in my A&R job now, being patient with people. Then I went from Baltimore to New York for a while, couldn't get a job, went to Atlanta, right when Dallas Austin had started his career, LaFace Records, Rowdy. First artist I worked with was Monica. I was her creative director. I wasn't even a A&R, so I did creative direction. I also did black hair care for a while for Bronner Brothers. I did marketing. And so by luck of the draw, putting everything together between psychology, knowing music, and then also dealing in black hair care, I went on. I've worked with Zendaya. I currently have Money Long. I have Coco Jones. I've also, was always like a street kid, so I signed an A&R at Future, then turned around and did Metro Boomin, and that's pretty much been my career. And I focus on community. So I've started I gave TDE their original deal, helped with the setup of Future's business as well as Metro, and currently helping Money Long set up her business pyramid, which includes publishing. My proper job is I work at Universal Music Group, Def Jam. Started to dabble into Africa. I brought Rima's deal into Universal Music Group system. So I try to be early on things and look for entrepreneurial spirit. And that's kind of like how we came up in Tennessee through the South, where growing up in Nashville, I could not necessarily work in country music at that time, which would have been probably 1993 when I graduated from college. So it made me determined to go alternate route, alternate cities, to now I walk into Nashville and I can do business. So it's a full, like a round circle experience for me. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I think a lot of people hear the term A&R
Yes.
mentioned a lot, but can you tell us what you think your job, is and what you do on a day-to-day basis when you're going in and you're touching base with artists? What does that look like for you? Is it admin? Is it making phone calls? Who are you talking to throughout your day? And why is it important for labels and artists to have an A&R included in their process?
Yeah, I call it asset management because the term A&R, which is artist and repertoire, is a bit of an old term, right? Mm-hmm. So A&R at a label, whether you sign the artist or they give you an artist, your responsibility is to deliver the product into the market space, God willing, have a return on investment and have a long career. the human side of me is A&R. You're supposed to protect the artist, protect the producer, keep them healthy, and make them, productive contributors to society in an artistic way. That's my view.
How many phone calls have you gotten in the middle of the night? Like, we need you
A
now.
lot. It's interesting because I was an A&R before I had kids, and so I got every call in the world. And now I have kids. I have young kids. I have grown kids. And you will get all types of calls. You just, you don't sleep. You have to put your phone on silent to get a good 5 or 6 hours. Yeah, from bail me out to my car broke down to I'm not gonna catch my flight, all that. I'm sure you dealt with it as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Bailey, what does your day-to-day look like, and why do you think it's important for labels and artists to have an A&R in their process?
Yeah, I mean, A&R for me is really just like bringing the artist's vision from point A all the way to point Z. And, my day-to-day is constantly, like you said, like the phone calls, like, but also making sure, making sure you just connect with everyone, producers, songwriters, managers, whoever it may be. But that's basically like my day-to-day, but we should.
Yeah, let's just take a
Steve-O.
quick intro to introduce Steven Carlos, also known as Steve-O, president of Warner Records A&R. Let's give him a clap really quick for being here. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Sorry for being late.
No worries. So my question right before you came in is, how do you define being an A&R? What does your day-to-day look like? And why do you think it's important for both the artist and the label to have an A&R involved in their creative process?
What was the first question?
How do you define being an A&R?
I define being an A&R by an artist representative on behalf of the company. I don't know if I have a perfect definition for it, but I would quantify it as the intermediary between the creative process and the artist and the business unit of the record company. And representing the artists and ensuring that they're getting the most optimal benefits, they're getting the best resources for scaling their creativity and in their business. And on the other side, ensuring for the business unit, ensuring that we're communicating well and always having a updated and evolving report card of where the artist is at and how they're trending in their process. So.
Okay. So I'm gonna move into my next question, and it'll kind of be a series of questions about balancing the artist and balancing the label. But how do the identities of your artists play into their brand, and how important is authenticity in that process? Anyone can start.
I start with authenticity. I'm a song guy. So if I hear the song, I'm building everything around the song.
Okay.
I believe in artist development. So, in hip hop and rap, people walk in off the street and usually got it. In other forms of music, R&B, proper pop, there's a tremendous amount of development that goes on, you know? So, yeah, that's pretty much my answer.
I'd value myself on the scene side of it. So I'm all about looking at the individual and trying to build the music around the individual. Right?
Okay.
So that way the authenticity of who they are as an individual and as a person find the best way to express themselves in the most unique way that's compatible for what they do really well.
So you would say an artist's backstory is important in how you...
Yeah, for sure. Everybody's story is important. It's just about how you want to tell that story.
Okay.
I'm going to find the most logical, meaningful, but authentic way to tell that story.
Okay. Bailey?
I would like kind of piggyback off of that. Like, I feel like I play both sides. Like, the artist is like that is your brand. Like, your identity is your brand through and through. Like, even for us, like who we are as people, just day to day, like that is what you show out to the world. So for me, like, I'm also a song person, but also like you could have two different sides to it. You could have like a great song, like you were saying, and like kind of shape that whole thing around someone, but also we're meant to help you elevate to a different level, a different frequency. So for me, I really like just try to look at the full scope and spectrum of like who that artist is or who that person is to bring it up.
So I'm going to throw in a little question of my own. So in the last panel they were talking about, which was the media and culture panel, they were talking about sustainability. So in terms of artists in their long-term career, how important is sustainability, and can they maintain this for a long period of time? Or is it more important that the art is pure and the art gets out and not where you'll be in 10 years? Do you think that plays a role? Anyone can start. Sorry, I should probably.
It depends on what you in. It depends on what you're in it for.
Right.
You know, it's so many various revenue streams that can come from success. So when you say sustainability, you know, artists make money from publishing. Mm-hmm. They become great songwriters. You take, you know, which is never happened before. But you look at someone like Rihanna, who has built an entire franchise off of being a successful hit artist.
Right.
She never has to do a show again, or she can do whatever she wants. So when sustainability musically versus brand, I think is two different things, right?
Which is more important now?
Which is more important depends on the lifestyle you want.
Okay.
You know, if you have that song, you can go out and do, you know, a couple shows and you be all right, you know. You have that brand, you might not ever have to leave the house.
Okay.
And you know, you have rocket ship of a brand. Travis Scott has a brand. He's gonna probably make $100 million a year off of just brand endorsements and Nike.
Yeah, I would echo Naeem's sentiments. I think it's about the individual and what they want out of their career.
Okay.
You know, there are a lot of artists that we all know that are very studious on their art and expressing that, and that's important above all, right? And that's their thing. And there's other artists that have exterior ambitions, and they want to go out and learn, and they want to scale businesses, and they want to build brands. So, you know, we just try to be as flexible and as congruent to whatever the individual or the task at hand is. But, you know, it's always a great opportunity to watch these things grow into whatever they be, because it's all important. You know, it's music, it's something we really love and cherish, and just being able to align ourselves side by side with creative people, I think it's a magical process to witness.
Yes. Bailey, did you have anything to add?
Honestly, that was perfect.
Okay, cool. And so my next question still touches on artists and authenticity. So how do you encourage your artists to be true to their vision? And how do you also balance the wants and the needs of the artist versus the wants and the needs of the label? How do you maintain the happy marriage?
I try to, my strategy is really simple. It's just education of the process, right? I think more that they can understand and foresight can help anticipate a lot of the anxieties, concerns, or maybe trepidations that might be ahead. But it's really about just giving them as much information and trying to coach them in where you expect them or want to see them go. And that's been a great way, I guess, like how we've been able to like do the balancing act of what's good for the music versus what's good for the artist.
Okay. Anybody else want to answer that question?
I would say also, like, I think allowing, like you were saying, it's like a learning process, and like also knowing that sometimes we're wrong and like you could be correct, like that could be the hit, like it's a whole like ball game, but I think it is the learning process of it all.
So in terms, okay, so I'm just kind of freestyling now. So who does the buck stop with, right? So if you have some input, your artist may have input that they don't agree with you on. How do you kind of maintain those situations when you might think this is the song and they're like, nah, this is the song? Like, who does the buck stop with?
I mean, it gets crazy. It really is like, it really depends on the situation. I think like there's always a way to find a happy medium. Mm-hmm. Like if we're saying like, okay, we really like this song, you're like, nah, I like this song. We're like, okay, maybe we'll put both on or put this out as a single first, like kind of maneuver it in a way that works best for the team so you're not like tarnishing a relationship or like trust in that way.
Yeah. Naeem, I know you were talking about how psychology plays a role. So how do you kind of manage those situations, or how have you managed them in the past where?
Yeah, it depends on, it's a term we use, it depends on if you outside or not, right? Because there's a lot of executives that they sit behind a desk, they sit on a computer, they're not outside. And so I think the percentage of being right is being outside, being amongst people, and not sitting behind a desk and making decisions. Also, if you make the wrong decision, if you're outside, you're gonna know.
Yes.
You know, so it's just like we were talking earlier. She was like, "You coming to the East Coast?" I say, "I'll be there in the summertime, and I'll be outside. I'll be in Brooklyn and Harlem. I'll be standing around seeing what's coming out of people's car systems and things like that." But you know, you're always gonna argue with an artist. I want to say, every record that I've had that I've made money on, like a royalty, somebody has said that the record's terrible. And usually the someone that said the record's terrible is the person inside the record label.
Can you think of one off the top of your head?
Oh man.
Just for the people. Just for the people.
It's actually been all of them. It ain't even been my coworkers, right?
Yeah.
Probably the first one was when I did Cry Mob, Nuck If You Buck.
Okay.
And they were like, it's terrible. Like it's the worst record. It's a terrible record, right? And
Nuck If You Buck?
Yeah,
That's what you said? Okay,
I
just
said,
wanna make sure I heard you
let's
correctly.
just put it out. If you ever look at the video, we just running behind them with a camcorder or something like that.
Yeah.
So doing a show in
Yeah.
Savannah, I think it was in Augusta, Savannah somewhere. And then even like this current record we have now with Money Long, Made For Me, I was told it's whatever, it sounds adult, it's Jermaine Dupri, it sounds old. And I was told, hey, just throw it out. And I said, all right. So at the last minute, I actually went to Jermaine and I said, they say it sounds a little old, can you change up the drums? And that is the current state of the record that's out now.
Oh, wow,
And
okay.
so, yeah, and that record came out, and we ain't had no video, nothing. We just
TikTok took it.
TikTok took it. We put it out on her birthday, actually.
Okay.
And then TikTok took it, and the rest was the rest.
Congrats, that's a runaway
Thank you.
smash.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of times you just, like I said, you got to be outside as an executive, and if you have a production company, even if you sitting in a studio, you can get what we call demoitis. You got to get outside and see what the people think.
Okay, cool. So how do you encourage, So how do you think the media platforms have changed the nature of your job? And how does that social media pressure kind of play into artists' decision? And maybe how do you mitigate that? Because all noise, outside noise isn't good noise.
Well, it's an added pressure because, you know, in today's time, like social media is so prevalent and it's so rampant. You know, a lot of these artists get major momentum in some of these platforms. And to counteract that with music and trying to put, you know, infrastructure or marketing plans or even just creative plans around them, that can be, it can be a conflict point at some time because the way that world moves or whatever world that it is that it's actually, that they come from, they have like major leverage and influence in, sometimes doesn't really apply well to the music side of it. So
Right.
again, it's another iteration of our roles is that we have to find a way to make that work, right? And that part is not always easy. Like I have one artist who's incredibly talented at doing social media, and I have others that totally reject it.
Yeah.
And those things never go well together because sometimes the posting or the interaction becomes more important. It feels like it could become more important than the actual music creation process. And, you know, that'll give you different, you know, issues in our day-to-day roles of trying to communicate where we're going to be and how we're trying to get there, but also trying to time it and time momentum to make campaigns work well for songs that we really believe in. So it's always a challenge, but it's a case-by-case scenario, I think.
Okay. So what is more important, do you think? The art as the talent intends for it to be, or the art as it is received by the people, the public, social media, everybody?
I would say both. I can't say one or the other because, you know, I've seen records that we've made intentionally from a pure art standpoint have people perceive that completely opposite than what we've made it for.
Right.
So for us, the win is always, did they like it and did it work, right?
Yeah.
So I don't complain about either, but I think it's hard to pick one or the other for me because it's never, no two things are the same, so.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump in on that question?
I mean, I would have to agree. I think also, like, at the end of the day, it's about, like, music and, like, the interaction between the artist and, like, the fan base and like what does that mean, or like even to a naked ear, just like someone hearing a song for the first time, really just like it's always about the music and
Right.
yeah.
Okay, so I want to kind of get back to your careers and maybe some people in the room who want to get into the A&R space. What do you think is a good first step, right, to kind of getting your foot in the door? Obviously, we can't go walk into labels, but what is some of the groundwork? What are some of the soft skills that people can do on their own to kind of get themselves in a space where they can come into an environment like that, network, and be able to dwell and do well?
I think it starts with networking. Like, we are in a very relationship-intensive business. Everything that we have, everything we've earned or been successful has come at the result of a relationship. So I think for anyone, there's no typical or right-wing way to do it. I just feel like if you're out, like what Naeem said, if you're outside and you're networking and you see things and you're bringing the value of knowledge and expertise of marketplace and what's moving in current times, and you actually have relationships, and you know, that's always a great way for people to find you before you look for it, right? And you know, because we move around in nothing symmetrical, we're like water, we can fit any crevices. You just never know who you're gonna meet or who you're gonna find and what opportunities are gonna be. So I'm always gonna recommend get outside and network and build relationships and be informative about what you know, and also learn as much as you can so you can always give back that information.
Bailey, I think this would be a good one for you because I don't think your journey necessarily was just a straight linear process. So what would you say now that you're in the door at a label and you can look back in retrospect at your journey? What are some things you think you can share about that journey and things people need to know?
I think I was just so like unapologetically like wanting more information from people. Like I was always on YouTube watching interviews. I was like, it's nothing to DM somebody. They either respond or they don't.
Right.
Like you could be like constantly like hitting them up or like leave a little space, like kind of like read the room and like kind of feel it out. And I think, you know, just standing on who you are is like what got me to this point. Like no question is a wrong like question. Like just always be in somebody's face. Like that's literally how I operate. Like I don't care. Like you just have to want it so much.
And not willing to accept no as an answer.
Like, you know, you're gonna get a lot of no's. I got so many no's. I graduated top of the pandemic. Like, I was like, all right, the world is ending, great. Like, I just wanna sit in my room and listen to music, still create, do all these things where I'm like, I need insurance at some point.
Right.
Like, all of these things. My parents are like, you about to be off our insurance. Like, what are we, you know? So, like,
That
thinking of all those
Obamacare
things.
cutoff is crazy.
You know, it's just like
It's
maneuvering.
crazy.
So yeah, just stand on who you are for sure.
Naeem, anything you wanted to offer on that?
Yeah, be good to people. It don't matter, from the janitor to the assistants at the studio, and then put your team together in your head. And probably the most important thing is ironic that we're at a law school, is have good lawyer relationships. Have somebody that can read through your paperwork. You know, first part of my career, I signed whatever was put in front of me. Then I look back, I was like, oh, well, that was it. I got that. I'm not doing anything else. Or I had signed things where I was stuck into situations. So I think, you know, it is a business. So have a good lawyer and then have a couple of good lawyers.
Yeah, I think that's one thing the legal panel emphasized. Before you get a manager, get a lawyer, okay? Have someone that's reading your paperwork. That's the one thing I learned today. So can you give us some insight into any unanticipated issues that you've experienced, whether it was in lieu of releasing an album, in lieu of shooting a video, in lieu of some creative process? What are some of the things that have like popped up in terms of your work and kind of created issues, and how did you mitigate those situations?
I'll leave it nameless because it's a sensitive thing today, but I remember we worked on an album, and we worked on this one album for many years.
Okay.
And we finally got to a place where we were pregnant with it and it was coming out. And we did everything right. We followed the delivery guidelines. We were early, set up, marketing, everything was coming together amazing. And I want to say probably in the last 2 weeks of us just kind of like going through our marketing protocols and doing our regular things, and the music was kind of set. A very large-scale producer came in and listened to the record and said, "Oh, you got to change all the masters." And we literally delivered the record already into the production supply chain. And the argument that it took to change these mixes and make sure that when it went live, all the mixes were right. We went and changed almost 60% of the mixes and the masters on the record.
Yeah.
Literally 72 hours before it went live. And, just trying to manage that process of ensuring that nothing, triggers too early or if it's the wrong version, because these things happen. Like,
Right.
These are manual processes, these are humans, things happen.
Or leaks, because that's a popular thing now.
Yeah, it was just so much riding on the moment. And we had a good trend, and like any little thing wrong in the supply chain could really affect your first week sales or your campaign at the wrong version, because then no one's happy. No one wants to celebrate it. And, they're always worried about, this is not the version that I approve. So
Right.
That's for the creative integrity and the trust of the work that we do. That part was probably one of the most damning experiences that I probably had. And they happen all the time, but this one was just out of control because the producer was erratic and was calling all the heads of the supply chain and platforms to make the changes for him.
That seems very messy.
Yeah.
Especially 72 hours before the drop. So don't do that, people.
But it came out. It did very well.
Great.
That's all that matters.
Classic album, millions of records sold later, so it was all worth it in the end.
That's good. We're going to wrap soon, but any last words on that? Any unanticipated issues and how you both have navigated those situations or what you've learned from them?
I don't know. I'm still in the learning process. Like, y'all are goated.
Yeah.
So, like, for me now, it's like, all right, my artist will come with, like, a song, but they won't know who produced it. Now I'm, like, in every Discord, like, looking at, like, producer tags, like, listening to see if someone knows where it is, like, all of those things. So, like, clearing songs for me right now is, like, that process is very interesting.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah.
That's the worst part. That's the
It's
worst part
crazy.
about this.
Yeah. Like, just crazy.
Naeem, any last words?
Yeah, I think overall just invest in yourself. Put the money that you make back into yourself. So, and be intentional about what you do and where you go and who you surround yourself with. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank you three for your time. I know you're very busy. I know you got artists to manage, the music world to manage. So everyone give a round of applause for our esteemed guests. Thank you for your time. And thank you for coming to the A&R panel. I hope that you all learned something on all the three panels. There was a lot of jewels dropped. There were a lot of important people here. So make sure you go meet someone who you haven't met. Go introduce yourself to someone. Come meet me. I'm always here to help talk and meet people as well. So thank you all for your time.
We got to catch up sometime.
Yeah, hell yeah.